United Lutheran Seminary presents the Seminary Explores podcast, conversations on faith, art, people, politics, theology, life, and more, with voices from around the corner and around the globe.
Good day. Welcome to the Seminary Explores. My name is Nelson Strobert, and my guest today is Dr. Charles Leonard, who is professor of practical theology at the United Lutheran Seminary on Gettysburg and Philadelphia campuses. He's also dean of worship there and is also pastor at St. Mark's Lutheran Church in Philadelphia. Welcome to the Seminary Explores.
Thank you, Dr. Strobert.
Yeah, this is our annual conversation on the top stories in religion for the past year. And so I would like to ask you, what is your first top story in religion for 2020?
Well, I had a number of them, but I would say that a top story for me would be how do we hold the church together, a congregation together in the midst of the pandemic. I know this is probably wasn't the original thing I was going to come up with at first, but that has affected me, I think, the most. And I had to struggle. It's realizing that not being remote, not being in person, people felt disconnected. So I had to listen to other pastors and ask around what are they doing, and so forth. And one of the things that I think people realize is that we had to do more than just recording from home. That there's more people needed more. They needed a lot more from us.
Right.
And what I did was I realized that we needed to. I needed to have like I instituted a midday prayer devotional time,
Okay.
and many people come on to that. And I realized after a while just how important that was to connect the people. Like each day, they're on Monday through Saturday at noontime. So we have a prayer, a scripture, and then they're talking to each other actually before and after. But then we have prayer. They offer up petitions for prayer, and they offer petitions for different people, not only in the congregation but in their families and people in their communities and people that they're concerned about and situations that they're concerned about. And what we had to do was work with them as far as getting some people, giving them hope and letting them know that, hey, we all are struggling. Some people by themselves, but just to be able to talk to each other on the phone or on Zoom, that was so important to them to provide hope for the congregation, to hold it together.
Okay.
And I'm seeing that many churches are struggling just to get that piece together, connectivity.
Right. But I want to ask you, how did you orient the congregation to accept this new way of being together?
It wasn't easy, Nelson. It wasn't easy. It was the people were like in disarray because we had to do this overnight, and they didn't know what to do. And I guess for myself, I had after leading worship for so many years, I realized, hey, I'm going to have to do something with worship on Sunday morning.
Right.
That first Sunday we were shut down. That first week on that Sunday, I think it was on Friday the 13th. People say that's when things are and where we were all shut down. And
Right.
I realized I have to have something in church. And I asked, had to pray on it and asked someone. I said, listen, can we just put this on Facebook and do something? And it wasn't easy, but we had to just pull it together that particular day. And the people said we're missing communion. That part we were missing because they would do communion every Sunday, every service. Even midweek was communion. It said, well, something is missing. But that first week, it gave them some hope that first week. But I just had a struggle on it, and people said, Pastor, keep doing what you're doing. We need this. We need something to hold us together, or we're not going to make it.
Okay. But now, was there any opposition to you?
There was no opposition.
No.
I think no opposition. And we just started doing communion. We started doing communion that way, what we did. And then I realized that okay, they're asking for a communion, and I know the what we had to do was the bishop has said to us, well, look, you do what you need to do as shepherds of the congregations. That I don't have a congregation, that and I wouldn't do it the way that some of you are doing it, but each pastor do what you need to do for your sake of your congregation. And our people in our council, the council had we had our council meeting, which we put that on Zoom. We had to go tech with that too. And they said, well, no, we need to have communion, Pastor. We need that. So then what I did was with that, because they had spoken to a number of folk within the congregation, they said, no, we need to have the service online. We need the communion. And what I did at that point was, after praying on it, I looked and realized that something that I had detested for years. Those little cups with the host on it, or one little packet. I said, no, I don't want to use that. But then I had to use it, being we were remote. I said, I'm going to have to use this, and what I would do is I would consecrate it, and then have the deacons take it out, deliver it to people in the congregation. And
Okay,
that's
so
how we. That's
okay, so would Holy Communion then be your second top story in religion?
Yes,
Okay,
that could be, and that's a story. That communion is a story, because that's something that I think the church is going to have to, the church at large, the bishops and so forth, are going to have to tackle with a conversation with, because a number of folk are anti-virtual communion, because that's what it is, virtual communion. A
right,
number of folk are anti. No, but then there are those who, a number of folk were saying, there's no other way. We have to go virtual. And they said, well, how do you do this with a congregation? The congregation is supposed to be together as a family when they do communion, is what
right,
some people feel. That's a unity. We have unity in the communion, but as a community of faith, a local congregation, we normally are together, but we can't be together because of the pandemic.
right,
So we felt we need to go virtual, but we know that's not where our bishops are. Our bishops are a little uneasy about that, going to virtual. And I
right.
think what was suggested is that we fast, that have the whole church go on a fast until such time the church can come together back in person again. So we would fast from communion until then, and when we do come back, it could be a very big celebration, of a big a feast, a
Indeed.
celebration of the Holy Supper.
Could now I had never heard. I know that we've used deacons to distribute the weekly Eucharist to our shut-ins, and you're the first one I've interviewed or talked with who used that same method to distribute to the congregation.
Yes, through our deacons, because it's going through the congregation, trying to deliver all that, and that's what they've done. They delivered it, and I got that thought and idea from worshiping, and I had to visit a Baptist church, and I worshiped in a Presbyterian church, and I saw the way they did communion,
Right,
because they had to use some of those use those little kits with the juice and the wafer on top, and they blessed it at the table, and then they had the deacons come forth and take it out into the sanctuary and distribute it amongst the people. And I
right,
said, well, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. We'll consecrate ours at the altar, and then have the deacons take it out to the remote congregation, who are
right.
not in the sanctuary, but they're remote. So that's a little twist in it, but they're taking it out and distributing it to them.
Now, do they do that on Sunday morning after the liturgy or during the week? How does that work?
It's during the week, and what I've done is I consecrated enough. I consecrate enough that I give them enough for a month or so, a month, 4 or 5 weeks, and then we have to take it back, consecrate more, and take it out again. Now, the other piece to this is that we have people from around the country that are joining in with us, and we
Okay.
have people from overseas that are joining in with us. So
Oh,
what we do then is have them get some bread or some crackers where they are. We let them know that at the beginning of the service that they need to do that, and then get some wine or some juice. And I tell them, you just get enough. You don't need a lot, just enough, but you need to consume all of what you bring. Consume it. While we when we distribute communion, when we have the communion come up, that you distribute when I do the words of institution. So, and they have that next to their computer or next to their phone, and then this is what they do. And when I hold up the cup and I bless it, and I bless the host and so forth, and then I said, "Well, take now. We're going to take and eat, and everybody will take and eat." I said, as they eat, I said, the body of Christ broken or given for you. And then we go to the cup, and they said, now let's take the cup that the blood of Christ shed for you, and take and drink. So then everyone will take and drink at the same time.
Okay.
It seemed to work. It seemed to work, but that's what we do as virtual. So we do everything we do on in person, just that the people are not there.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, and I thank you for sharing that method of distribution. Uh, uh, in our conversation prior to coming online, your third top story would be the lasting effect of worship and church life after the after we get control of the pandemic.
The pandemic.
Could you share some more about that?
That's going through my mind, and I'm thinking of how we're going to come back. Uh, Coming back, I know that we have some issues. One issue is that, and that's being shared around the country. It affects the church. Is that not everybody wants to take or trust taking the vaccine? Now, I've said to my people, we can't come back together if we don't take the vaccine. I know people are afraid and people are scared, and I can imagine that some of the older people, because if they ever had a problem, if they had taken the flu shot and ever gotten sick, some are afraid. They
Yes.
said, like me, I got over the flu, but with this virus, I may not get over it. I might, if I get sick and have a reaction, I might go on a respirator, and I'm going to die, and that's what they're afraid of.
Right.
So that's what back. I think some of those who will be inoculated, they will come back. But I don't think people are going to come every Sunday like they were before, because now that they're more used to being at home and used to, listening to church in their pajamas, feeling present in their pajamas, or lying in bed and so forth, that they feel they don't have to get the children out. So that's going to be one of the things we're going to struggle with coming back. I think another thing coming back is Sunday school. That's another thing, because it's been a very, very, very trying time trying to keep the young people engaged, and then the Sunday school. And part of it is that with them on Zoom, they're on Zoom for the most part. Most of them who are learning remotely, they're all week on Zoom, Monday
Yes.
through Friday. And now you're telling them on Sunday that we need them to come on to Zoom. It seems to work for some congregations, but with many of them, the children have had such a difficult time just trying to make this adjustment, moving
Right.
from in person in class to Zoom. And you see that by the end of the day, they're exhausted. Many of them are exhausted. Then trying to get them to come on board. And then we need the parents at that point to help us if we're gonna make that piece happen. But I don't think that the kids, I think, will be as we're gonna have to really make a lot of effort to really engage them and pull them back into the fold as we return. So those are some of the things that I see happening. I think
Okay.
meetings are not going to be the same.
Uh,
They're not. Some meetings are going to be they're going to be by way of remote, by way of Zoom. That's going to happen. So that's some of the stuff that we're going to have to get used to.
okay.
I mean,
Yeah, I think so. I think particularly like committee meetings that when people would go out in the winter time during the snow, you don't have to do that anymore. because
Right.
people are
You won't
used
have to do it anymore.
how have you as pastor um, uh, how have you as pastor um, helped to orient the school teachers to teaching on Sunday morning, or was that suspended for you?
That was suspended because part of it is some of the teachers are not that astute with the technology. Some
Right.
of them are not, and so that makes for a problem. And then we had to figure out, the curriculum that we would use. We looked at curriculum from the Lutheran Church. Looked at one of those from Media 1516. We looked at that
Right.
Spark House, and it seems good. It's good, and I think it works. But I think it's having the teachers to do it, and then trying to see a good time that we would have it. And some churches are doing it right after they do the morning worship. Right
Yes.
after they do that, then then the parents have to tell the kids, now you have to stay on because you have Sunday school. That's a challenge.
Yeah,
No,
I'm sure. I am sure.
that's a big challenge.
Um,
So it's
uh,
going to be something.
exactly. The other issue that you mentioned was that people are used to being very relaxed on Sunday morning in front of their computers or iPads or on the telephone. Um,
Right.
do you think in your return, in the return of people to the congregation, to the building, do you think that we're coming into a time of simultaneous worship? That is, some will be in place, in the sanctuary, and then others will remain online, so that you're conducting the service, the liturgy, but you'll have like two different modes of existing on Sunday morning.
Yeah. Yes, I think you, Nelson. That's very well. I think very much so. What will happen? I think most churches, when we gather pastors and pastors begin to talk, and people around the church, even some of the lay people, is people are saying we're not going back to what it was before the pandemic. We're not going back to it. So we might as well realize that it's a new reality that we're going into, and exactly what you just described. It's going to be two. There's going to be two modes that we have to work with.
Right.
So I think churches will have to be online while at the same time in person. And the mega churches have been doing this. Many of them, not all, but many of them have been doing this for years.
Okay.
But now the smaller churches, medium-sized churches, family-sized churches, we're going to have to do the same thing. We're going to have online, and at the same time have people in person.
Right. The other issue that comes to mind, again, going back to education and Sunday school, is the need to orient or recruit teachers who would be adaptable to using technology.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, that's going to be a challenge.
yeah.
I think when you look at some of the urban churches, they don't. We don't have a lot of folk who can handle that piece.
Right.
Who are teachers? We don't have that many, but so we have to really train. We're going to have to train people, some folk, and really get the equipment for them that they can take part in teaching the children. And then we have another thing we have to do is we have to go after the parents because we need their support in
Yes.
making this happen. We got to have parental support to make it happen, or it's just we're not going to go anywhere if we don't have the parents behind it. So we need the teachers. The teachers have to be trained, in this new mode, and then we have to have the parental support, and then we have to be able, I think, as pastors, to really oversee and help facilitate this whole thing to make it happen. If we have a superintendent who's good, what I mean, a superintendent can handle all that, but in many of our churches, the Sunday school superintendent is probably not there. So
Right.
it means that the pastor's going to have to take more more responsibility in facilitating of the Christian education program.
Okay. Okay.
But
Uh,
you know what I found? I
yes.
found something in dealing with this. I found that online with our weekday Bible study, I'm reaching more people, and people that couldn't get there before. Some of those folk are coming to Bible study online,
Oh, really?
and I said,
Oh,
well, that's interesting, that they're coming, because that's the same we're getting in worship. And I'm reaching. Most pastors are saying we're reaching many more people online than we do in person. You
that's
know,
really interesting.
Yes, we're more online. Like I would get maybe 90, between 90, maybe 100, 70, let's say 75, 90, 100, was because we were moving towards that place where we were moving towards 100 a week. And of
Wow.
course that just blown away with the pandemic. But now we were usually on I haven't looked at it this week, but we've been averaging about attendance about 180, 150,
Wow.
200 sometimes is what we've been getting. So
Oh,
we're well over, and that's just one. That's just a family that's watching. So we don't know how many people in that particular household that's watching.
the other issue you had mentioned before we went on air, and that is fellowship. And could you explain what you meant by fellowship as one of the issues?
Well, it's difficult when people trying to engage people, that people can actually engage socially with each other from a distance.
Right.
Now, what some churches, a number of churches are doing, apparently they said seemingly it works. Is that they have a time after the recording of the service, on the broadcasting of the service on Sunday morning, that then they have a time where people in the congregation just come together online. May have their coffee, and they maybe they're Danish, whatever, and then they just able to talk to each other and
Right.
talk about what's happening. And there's a conversation that goes on. So when they seem to feel good about that, because they can ask questions about what's happening at the church, and then they talking to each other about what each other is going through as they deal with this pandemic. So that's a way of keeping them connected also. So that's a way of fellowship. We do that on each day when we have the midday devotion.
Okay.
There's a time we're coming on in the beginning. People are talking to each other. They call each other's names. They ask how this one is doing, how the family, if this one is struggling with cancer or whatever. They get that information, and that keeps them connected, and that's the good part about it. So when we do this, when we come back together again, we may have to do both. you know do that online, and also have something in person at the end of service. And what bothers me is that I don't think we're going to be back. We're not going to be back fully together as we were pre-pandemic. Some of our people will be able to come back. Will come back, and some will just say, "I'm just going to do this from home."
Right. I wonder if there have been more in-depth conversations online as people, as you say, talk to each other or catch up on things. I wonder if within the congregation there's been a lot more or deeper conversation than they would have just going to the coffee hour.
I
Or
think so. I think you're right. I think so, because they're sequestered. So many of them, especially the older ones, like if some of their family has said, "You don't go out the house. Don't let anybody in, and nobody comes out." That means you, mom, you, dad, do not go out the house, because I
right,
don't want you to get sick with this virus. And so then that's what's happening. So they're able to put more time in on when they do talk to each other. They think things through, and they really able to ask questions to each other, but also to share how this pandemic has really affected them emotionally and so forth. And then ask questions about the church. They want to know about the church.
Mhm.
They all want to know about the church. Want to know how things are going at the church. They want to know how many people have had the virus. They want to know that, but then they want to know question: when are we getting back to church? Now, how are we going to get back into the church? That's one of the questions that's asked constantly. How are we going to get back in?
Indeed, which is yeah, and as we begin a new year, that is a major question for the church as well as other agencies and businesses. I can't believe
How do we start back up?
our time is running out, and I want to thank you for sharing what turns out to be looking at 2020 in face of the coronavirus and helping us to think and look and see what's ahead for us. I want to thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. No, so we just have to continue in prayer and ask God to lead us and to guide us in this, reveal to us what we need to do.
Exactly. As we venture into 2021. My guest
Right. Correct.
My guest today has been Dr. Charles Leonard, who is professor of practical theology at the United Lutheran Seminary, who is also dean of worship and is pastor at St. Mark's Lutheran Church in Philadelphia. For the Seminary Explorers, this is Nelson Strobert. Have a good day.
You have been listening to The Seminary Explorers, a production of United Lutheran Seminary with campuses in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We invite you to visit our website at unitedlutheranseminary.edu. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of United Lutheran Seminary or the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America.